Hello, friends. Precious D here. We've got another one of our special role-playing game-related interviews. In the second half of today's show, we'll be talking to Levi Combs from Planet X Games, publisher of Escape from Skullcano Island, a kaiju-related role-playing game supplement for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. But first, we're going to play the theme song, and then Honeybee and I will talk about Zarkorr the Invader.
1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster
Movie.
fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honeybee.
Fun time, go!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and neighbors, welcome to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. I am one of your hosts, Precious D.
And I am the other one of your hosts, Honeybee.
Honeybee and I are two best friends making our way through the history of kaiju movies. We began with the original King Kong in 1933, and we are now to 1996 with the direct-to-video movie
Yeah.
Zarkorr the Invader. This movie was produced by Full Moon Entertainment. Honeybee, are you at all familiar with Full Moon Entertainment?
Negative.
Also distributed by a sub-label of theirs called Monster Island Entertainment. I'm very familiar with Full Moon Entertainment, although I'd not seen this particular movie before. But back in the day when there were video rental stores, I would often pick up the latest release from Full Moon Entertainment. Their low-budget genre movies, science fiction, horror, things like that. Their some of their best-known series are the Puppet Master series and the Subspecies series and Trancers and Doll Man versus Demonic Toys. The more recent things they've done are Ginger Dead Man and Killer Bong. They're low budget crap, but they can be fun low budget crap, and I certainly spent a fair amount of money renting this crap in the past. I have a friend who used to work for one of the acting unions, and maybe he still does, I'm not sure. I'm not going to mention his name in case what he told me was, not for public consumption. But he warned me years ago. He said, I said, I don't know how it came up, but I had said something about Full Moon, and he said, well, if you ever work for them, make sure you get paid up front and that you get your travel up front.
Ooh.
Because they had to come to the aid of, they used to do a lot of filming in Romania, and at least one, possibly more than one actor had their ticket to Romania paid for, but did not have their return ticket paid for.
Oh no.
And ended up stranded in Romania and called on the union to help them get home.
Nice.
So, yeah. So Full Moon's a little bit shady sometimes. And we probably run into a few more of their films over the years. But I was always a big fan of the Trancers series that starred Tim Thomerson.
Tim Thomerson sounds like a made-up name.
I think it's his real name. Joseph Timothy
awesome.
Thomerson, yeah.
Oh, well, Joseph Timothy Thomerson. Yeah, that sounds more like a real name.
Yeah. You probably know him if you saw him. He's been in a lot of stuff. Some of it cheap stuff, some of it real stuff.
Nice.
Anyway, today we're talking about this piece of shit, though. Zarkorr the Invader.
Damn.
First thoughts, Honeybee?
Man. I don't know what my first thoughts are, to be completely honest. This movie, it's a kaiju movie for sure. There's a kaiju in it, but the kaiju just seems so. It's the least. It's like. This is one of those movies where like the people shit is way more happening and like way more taking over and way more in the forefront, and the kaiju shit is very minimal. Like there's like little flashes here and there of like Zarkorr like destroying tiny toy towns and shit like that, but really this movie is about the people, and I'm really not a fan of that most of the time. Like it just kind of, I want more monster shit usually, or I want the kaiju to be more than just like this mindless thing tearing shit up, which Zarkorr kind of is, because he does have like this purpose in a sense, I guess, of like finding this dude or whatever, but really there was just a lot of weird people shit going on, and it kind of reminded me of like, it just escalates so quickly and there's like just a lot of bad shit happening with these people, and I don't know, it's just kind of like
well, let me read you something from Wikipedia that might explain part of what you're feeling there.
Okay, yeah, give it to me.
This is under the production subheading on the Wikipedia article. The Zarkorr scenes, directed by Michael Deek, were filmed before Neil Marshall Stevens wrote the script.
Oh.
Principal photography took place over the course of less than a week. The effects for Zarkorr were created using a man in a rubber suit, which we appreciate, similar to that of the Godzilla series. Costume was designed by Jody Zimmelman. The sound effect used for Zarkorr's roar was the same as the roar of the Tyrannosaurus Rex from Jurassic Park.
Ah, he also has a little bit of a growl too, which was nice.
Yeah. The reason why that's important is because the human shit does not seem very closely or directly connected to the kaiju shit.
Yeah.
And it does seem like they built one miniature set and then had Zarkorr just stomp through it and tear it up with no goal, no rhyme or reason. Just, all right, buddy, get in there and have at it. And he goes in and just tears shit up.
Yeah.
And then that probably was done in a day. And then they interspersed that with the human shit. And this is all because it's a low budget piece of crap. And in fact, there's one point where I was almost admiring the low budget crappiness of it. So there's two directors here. Aaron Osborne is the other director listed, and I'm assuming he directed all the human shit, and Michael Deek just directed the Zarkorr shit. But there's a point when they're sitting in a police car listening to the radio, and the radio is telling us all the stuff so that they don't have to show it. The radio is saying, oh, the army is launching missiles and they're having no effect, and the tanks are coming and the...
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well done. I see what you did there. So they didn't, normally we have little tiny tanks roll out. We have some shots of real tanks and jeeps and things and people in army uniforms interspersed with the model ones, but none of that in this movie because they couldn't afford it. They just, a guy on the radio telling us all that stuff is happening.
Yeah.
I should say the release date is April 1996. It is 80 minutes. And of course it's in color and in English, produced by a whole bunch of people here. But Albert Band and Charles Band are two of the producers. Charles Band is the main guy behind Full Moon Entertainment, Full Moon Studios, Full Moon Pictures, all the various incarnations of that company. And the music is by Richard Band, so keeping it all in the family.
Fuck yeah.
Our cast is Reese Pugh as Tommy Ward, DePriest Grossman as Dr. Stephanie Martin. Oh, I wonder if that's... I just noticed that. I wonder if that is a reference to Steve Martin from Godzilla, or if that's just a coincidence. Mark Hamilton as George Ray. I got excited for a nanosecond when this name came up, and I was like, oh, no, it's Mark Hamilton, not Mark Hamill. Charles Schneider as Arthur. He was very annoying. Tory Lynch as Proctor. Franklin A. Valette as Horace. Don Yannon as Dunk. Peter Looney as Billy. Dyer McHenry as Al. Stan Chambers as Stan. Elizabeth Anderson as herself. I don't know who the fuck that was. Did you notice? I noticed that when the actual credits went by, it just said Elizabeth Anderson as Elizabeth Anderson. I'm like, was that the news lady or something? Nothing I can find out about her. It's giving me a clue as to who it was in the movie. Robert Craighead as Marty Carlson. Dylene Nelson as Debbie Dalverson. Marty Osto as reporter. Jim Glassman as stage manager. Emmett Green as crew member. Mike Turner as guard 1. Robert J. Farrell as guard 2. Ron Barnes as Larry Bates. And John Paul Fiedel as Zarkorr. Who?
Did you just ooh-woo?
Who was? No.
You said who.
Who? I don't. Who was the little mall rat?
Oh, maybe that's Elizabeth.
Maybe that's it. Maybe so. Because it says that she was some kind of a singer. So maybe we're meant to. And she's done a bunch of voice acting, and I could see that voice being in cartoons.
Also, I think you meant mall tramp. That's what they call her.
Mall tramp.
That's what he calls her in the movie.
Tiny teenage mall tramp.
He calls her that twice.
Again,
I was like, ew, come on. Gross.
Again, saving money by just having her wear her own clothes.
And use her own name.
Yeah. All right, here's the plot from Wikipedia, because God knows I made no notes about this fucking movie.
I made a few.
I did appreciate that it was a guy in a suit tearing up models. I liked that aspect of it.
Same. I really like the design of Zarkorr. I love his horns. His legs are a little skinny. Like, he's all like jacked up top, and then his like legs are kind of skinny. And I'm like, yo, bro, if you're gonna be walking through a city smashing, buildings, you can't skip leg day. You just can't do it.
Oh no, this says the pixie was Tory Lynch, who was not in that list of credits that I just listed. So I still don't know who Elizabeth Anderson was. Intelligent aliens who have been studying Earth for centuries decide to challenge mankind by sending in a 180-foot laser-eyed monster called Zarkorr to wreak city-crushing havoc. Only one incredibly average young man, postal worker Tommy Ward, can find the beast's weakness and save the planet with the help of a 6-inch tall pixie. Well, not really. Tory Lynch, who says she is a mental image projected into his brain by the aliens, and yet when he bops her on the head, she reacts. So annoying. She makes a point of saying, I'm real, but I'm not physical. I'm a projection into your brain, and the reason I look like this is to be something non-threatening and familiar, and only you can see me. But then he reaches out to touch her, and she goes, hey, when he kind of boops her head. So it was inconsistent. God damn it. So the movie starts off with a laser hitting the side of a mountain from outer space, and a monster emerges.
And some country dude, some dude saying in a very heavy accent, like, avalanche!
Yeah, 3 dudes are just walking along, and one of them yells out, avalanche! And the monster comes out and starts tearing shit up. Then we cut to this postal worker, not a mailman, a postal worker, which means he works in the office, he's not out delivering the mail. He's not a letter carrier. He works at the office, probably sorting mail. And this little, I guess, sexy young woman in shorts and a crop top appears on his breakfast table next to his bowl.
I mean, he describes her as a teenage mall rat, so I wouldn't necessarily...
Teenage mall tramp.
Mall tramp, yeah.
But I mean, they're trying to make, she's wearing revealing clothes. But just total normal human looking clothes, not space alien.
She's wearing a
clothes.
crop top. She's wearing a crop top and some bottoms.
Very
it's
short
not really
shorts.
That sexy. They're not that short.
I feel like they were trying to make her look attractive. But she just appears to this dude and starts explaining to him that he has to stop the monster, which he hasn't turned on the news yet, so he doesn't know what the fuck's going on. And the reason he has been chosen is because he's the absolute medium average person. He says there must be other people more qualified than me, and she's like, yes, 50%. Exactly 50% of the population of the planet is more qualified than you to deal with this, and exactly 50% is less qualified than you to deal with this. That's why you were chosen. I found this guy so annoying, though. He's just a real whiner throughout the whole
Yes.
movie.
It reminds me of Harry Potter, where it's like, yeah, you're the main character, but you're kind of just like a whiny little bitch. Like, God, why are you so unpleasant?
I don't remember feeling that way about Harry Potter, but I could.
He doesn't. It's not like it takes like 4 or 5 books for him to become just like this whiny kind of teenager. And there's just like a book or two where like he's just so whiny and everything is like he just cries about everything and he's just like,
why do I have to be the chosen one? Okay.
My parents are dead and my life is so hard.
Well, it's true. When he starts out, he is a little less. Well, he doesn't know he's the chosen one when he starts out. He's actually excited about things because he gets to leave a shitty life behind. But then life is just shitty in a different way as people are constantly trying to kill him.
Right, and don't come for me, okay? I know everyone like loves Harry Potter and stuff. I just think he's like the least interesting character. At some point, like book like 4, he's like the least.
Right.
Like he's just kind of a whiny little bitch, and it's annoying. And that's only because I'm like 30 and not like 15. Because I grew up when I was growing up, we were the same age. But now, you know, I'm older. He's kind of a whiny bitch.
He reaches a point where he's about had enough of this nonsense. Starts complaining. It's true. But anyway, this guy complains through about 80% of the movie. He kind of gets his shit together near the end. But anyway, this pixie explains that Zarkorr cannot be destroyed by weapons, but that the key to the monster's destruction lies within the monster itself. Tommy, chosen as an average human, is the one destined to fight Zarkorr, who is programmed to kill him. He can't just run away from this. It's going to come looking for him. Tommy asks scientist Dr. Stephanie Martin for advice about his mission.
Is that
everyone
how
thinks
we're
he's
gonna
crazy.
Put it?
Yeah. He sees her on the TV talking about how Zarkorr's not a dinosaur, so he decides she's the expert that can help, and then just goes to the TV station and kidnaps her.
It's crazy. This TV station like situation, it gets really out of hand really quickly. And the little fairy lady even tells him like something about like the more positive decisions you make and the faster you make them, the more like the faster you'll succeed or like the better you'll succeed or some shit. And then he just walks into this news station. He's holding people at gunpoint. He's like, it's just the whole scene. I was just like, what the fuck is happening?
You have to take
it just gets so
action.
out of control.
Yeah. Well, and I was also getting annoyed with Stephanie in that she keeps struggling past the point where I'm just like, you're going to end up getting shot by accident if you don't just calm the fuck down. There's a point when someone's got a gun on you that maybe you rush them in or you try to get away, but there comes a point when that's not working, where you just need to calm down and humor the crazy person. It turns out he's not crazy, but you know, you can try just humoring them and getting them to calm down and getting them to trust you, rather than just constantly struggling and trying to break their grip on you and end up getting shot by accident when they keep saying, I don't want to hurt you. And you just...
Yeah, but when he's like holding a gun to her head, like, don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. I promise. I'm just going to keep this gun at your fucking face. Like, oh my God.
Right. But it just seemed like squirming around was not the best way to deal with that. But that's all on the director. That is all on the director. He should have guided her in a different direction. I'm not going to blame her. It's the director's fault. It just got old because it wasn't going anywhere. And it was just slowing everything down.
I literally was like, I swear to God, if these fucks end up together, I'm going to be so pissed off. I already knew. I already fucking knew.
Yeah. So he goes to try to talk to her, but she immediately thinks he's crazy, so he decides to try to force her to listen at gunpoint. Well, it escalates First, she's like, don't touch me. I'm like, I'm not touching you, but he's right up in her face, almost touching her. And then somebody calls for security, and so he grabs
before anyone calls for security, there's like people all around them. It's so awkward that like no one is helping her, because like when we like the camera like pans the room, like there are people close to her, and I'm like, is anyone gonna help this poor lady? Because he's like, I'm not crazy. I just talked to an alien, and I'm supposed to defeat Zarkorr, and finally she screams like help, and someone's like call security. But for the longest time, there are like. A guy taking out the trash lets him in, and then he asks a guy, hey, where's the wardrobe room? And then that guy just tells him, and then he like basically pushes this woman up against the wall and is like, listen to me, I'm not crazy. And people just are like acting like this is a very normal situation until she screams like help, and then someone calls security. It was super awkward, and I just felt really bad for her.
So he tries to fight off security with some kind of a stand. What were they calling a C-stand? Some kind of an equipment stand. Mm-hmm. And then ends up getting the security guard's gun away from him, and then making the other security guard give him his gun. He has like 3 or 4 guns at some point. Mm-hmm. And then they call the real police, and the real police come in, and he's gotten in the bathroom at this point, and the policeman's trying to talk to him, gets him to open the door, and there's 2 cops there. And one of the cops starts actually listening and decides that he believes him.
Good old George.
And takes his side. Yeah, George. And he puts the George Ray. He turns his gun on the other policeman and disarms him and helps him escape. And I just fucking loved it. Now, I don't know that he really has a good reason, because he starts talking about, come on, the aliens have been watching us forever, and, abductions and cattle mutilations.
Look at the evidence.
Yeah, the evidence. I'm like, there's no goddamn evidence for any of that shit. Oh, but there's a point. Now, I don't know if you caught this. At this time in America, there was a problem with postal workers losing their shit and attacking people, shooting people.
What?
They called it going postal. Yeah. This was before school shootings became so common. Workplace shootings, and mostly postal workers just losing their shit and shooting the place up, coming into work and shooting people, things like that.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, they called it going postal. There were some incidents of people who didn't work at the post office doing this. And there's even a movie called Going Postal about it.
And the moral of this story is put fucking air conditioners in your trucks, people. Yeah.
The movie's based on a video game, though, I think, called Postal or Going Postal. Well, the thing is that it can be a really high-stress job for the people working in the post office, of constantly having to process, not having enough people working there and having to process so much mail. And I don't know if it's not as bad anymore because we're not using the post office as much as we used to. But I bring this up because at one point when the police have been called, somebody tells them he's a postal worker, and they look at each other like, oh shit, this is serious.
Oh, I thought what was happening was like, he's a postal worker, like he's a bitch, just come in and shoot him. He doesn't know karate or anything.
No, they meant that as, oh, he's serious. He might shoot up the whole place if he's a postal worker.
I took it the complete opposite way. That's so funny.
Yeah. So that's what that was about. But I had a feeling some of our younger listeners might not be aware of that trope, that meme, that concept. Anyway, they get away and go George knows a place where they can hide. Dr. Martin agrees to help him. Using computers belonging to a friend of hers, oh, Jesus Christ. They establish that the monster, which is destroying city after city in the style of Godzilla, neither sleeps nor breathes. They're skipping over a bunch here. So she knows some hacker dude named Arthur, who is just one of the more annoying. I prefer the term cybernaut. He is some kind of a computer-based criminal that she knows as a for some reason. I'm not sure why, because she's some sort of well, they called her a cryptozoologist at the end of the movie, but I think she's being presented as a paleontologist at the beginning of the movie. Anyway,
he's known her though since she was like 17 or something, because they talk about how he like tapped her phone lines or something when she was like 17 or not 17, but like lost her virginity to her professor or something.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that happened at 17 because it was a college professor, but he has known her since then. Yeah, he's been spying on her. He's a total creep. He's got poor social skills, and laughing is a nervous habit for him. And
like
he's
Joaquin
just
Phoenix
nuts.
Joker, like laughing, nervous laughter.
Yeah,
weird.
He's just nuts, but computer genius who can easily break into. They want to use him to access any sort of records to just figure out what the fuck's going on. To try to get a clue.
He's kind of a shit, but he was my favorite character of the whole movie.
I found him incredibly annoying, but I will say the actor was committing 110% to what he was doing. He was not phoning it in. He was giving it all he had. Mm-hmm. But they do a bunch of looking into shit and putting pieces together, and sort of figure out that at the same time, they figured out where he came from, and then they figured out that something else happened at the same time, not too far away as when he first appeared. They look at a bunch of weather stuff and energy surges and all kinds of stuff, and they put together that these two things happened at two different places at the same time. So they should go to the other place to see what they can find there. And
also,
Arthur gives him a little...
so funny. Arthur asks, like, are you two together? To, like, Dr. Stephanie and to the main guy. And then he's like, are you two together? To the cop. And then to her. And then he's like, are you two together? To the two dudes. It's really funny. Any combination of anyone dating here.
Right. Yeah. And like, you said he had poor social skills, and he's got the poor social skills because it doesn't really... Like, what difference does it make? We need to save the world, and you're worrying about who may or may not be banging.
Yeah, he's like, oh, so you use prostitutes, or...
Yes, yeah. He's got no impulse control.
He's a shit.
Oh, but
he's
arranges...
awesome.
He uses computer skills to book them on a plane and tells Stephanie to go out and buy some new clothes for these guys so they don't... because they'll be spotted in their uniforms right away. And...
yeah, they do some brainstorming, come up with the off switch.
Yeah. There was much less security at airports at this time, too. So even though these guys are wanted fugitives, it's not completely inconceivable that they'd be able to get on the airplane to go to... where was it? Arizona?
Yes, it is Arizona.
So... it says going to the place where the monster first appeared, but that's not what they do. They go to the other place where something else appeared at the same time and come into possession of a strange metallic capsule that fell out of the sky at the same time the monster arrived. They basically impersonate government agents.
And they have this moment where they're like, doctor. It's like they're all meeting each other.
Yeah. It is believed to be unopenable, but it opens itself for Tommy as he touches it. Does it? I kept expecting that to happen, but I don't remember it actually happening.
It doesn't. Or I didn't see it happen.
I did.
To me, it was like all of a sudden
screen.
he just knows. Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's the case.
Because it says here he uses the top of the capsule as a shield, because that's the thing. When he takes it out later, it does seem like he's just got the top of it, but they don't ever show it. He's not carrying the whole thing. At first, the locals are cooperating with them, but then when they decide to pack up the thing and take it with them, they start arguing, and George has to intimidate everybody into shutting up and leaving them alone. But then they get stopped on the road on the way to... they're going to now take the thing and go to the monster, and they get stopped on the road, and the cop sees something on his report that he doesn't like, so he asks them to get out, and Tommy takes off without them. He's like, thanks for helping, guys, bye. And gets to where Zarkorr's tearing shit up, pulls out the thing and uses it as a shield and reflects Zarkorr's laser eyes back at him and the monster dissolves into a small glowing sphere flying into space.
It's very anticlimactic.
Yeah, but I kind of like the idea, like, oh yeah, that's the key to his destruction is within him. Just shoot his own eye beams back at him. Tommy is taken to a hospital to recover. A TV reporter congratulates him for saving the world and jokes he might run for president.
Is that a joke? Because I don't think it's a joke.
It didn't seem like a joke. No, it seemed like she was really saying.
She's like, there's
everybody
a
keeps
grassroots.
saying, yeah, to draft you as president. Draft you into running, but you can't just draft someone. Still have to get elected.
You did it.
Zarkorr the Invader received negative reviews from critics, but has a cult following who tend to praise the monster Zarkorr, but not the movie as a whole, according to Wikipedia.
Nice. The argument, there's like a screaming match between Sheriff Rocker and George, and that was hilarious. It's like, they're like, show us some proof that you're government officials. And George is like, oh, you're a question asker, huh? And they're like, it's just this ridiculous screaming match really back weird. And forth. It's so
And he's implying
funny.
that being an American means not being a question asker.
Yeah, because he's really just weird. Trying. Yeah, it's because he's just trying to like distract them so that the other people can get the thing in the car, and he has no material to work with. So he's just like, I'm just gonna bullshit you until they get in the car. Yeah, and then they're like, it's too big, and he's like, give me your belt,
right,
so that they can strap it into the car.
It wasn't clear to me though why the sheriff waits till this moment to start pushing back. And something just clicked in his head.
It's just going really weird. Like, why would they pick it up?
He's like, I never did get any ID from these guys. I just took them at their word. Yeah, and he's
like, why would they pick up this thing that could explode? Like, we don't even know what it does. Why are they acting like this? Like, why are they trying to just put it in their car, in the trunk of their car, and drive away? Like, something is fishy here. It's like, prove yourself. And he's like, how dare you be un-American and ask me for ID?
Right. How dare you do your job?
So funny.
Friends and neighbors, I have a special guest with us here today, Mr. Levi Combs of Planet X Games, who is here to talk to us about Escape from Skullcano Island and whatever other monster-related stuff or RPG-related stuff we might get into. Welcome to the show, Levi.
Hey, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm melting. It's incredibly hot still. It's probably about 104 right now.
Dude, you got that Texas heat.
Yes. Yep. And I'm in my closet and trying not to let the fan make too much noise into the microphone. So.
Oh, my gosh. Brutal.
Yeah. So I hope all you listeners appreciate what I go through for you.
This man is going to the ends of the earth to bring you all the good monster news.
Yeah. So, Levi, the reason, of course, that your name and your company came up on this show, because normally we're talking about kaiju movies, is because of your adventure module for and setting for 5th edition D&D called Escape from Skullcano Island.
Yes, sir.
Which is a kaiju-related role-playing game supplement. And I mentioned it in my presentation at Gen Con, and that caught your attention. I've been meaning to try to get you to come on the show for a while because of that. But it was seeing my video that actually finally got us to connect.
Well, there's it's a small group of us that make kaiju related adventures for D&D,
Well, the thing is, once you start looking for it, you start seeing realizing there's more of it. Like years ago, I was putting together a playlist of Superman songs. And once you start looking for Superman songs, you find that there are far more of them than you realized. So once you start looking for kaiju role-playing games or supplements for role-playing games, you realize there's more there. And I'm hoping I might be able to find enough new stuff to do a follow-up presentation next year, because I've already had a couple of things come across my radar.
I mean, the game itself lends itself to kaiju for sure. I mean, for any kind of giant monster or monster movie kind of aesthetic, it just absolutely lends itself, especially at high level. So, yeah, man, it was just a natural for me as being such a massive Godzilla fan and Toho fan and just monster movies in general.
So was there anything specific that, tell us a little bit about Skullcano Island for the folks who haven't checked it out yet.
Yeah, so Escape from Skullcano Island, it's a high level 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons module. For 5th edition, there aren't a lot of high level modules floating around out there. But that was kind of a thing for the earlier editions. There were quite a few in 1st and 2nd edition, a couple in 3rd. But largely there's not very many in 5th. So I thought, well, I've written some stuff and got some ideas. Let me write this high level 5th edition game. And so when I started to get into it, I had kind of like an Isle of Dread, sort of like Lost Island, Skull Island from King Kong kind of vision in my head of this kind of primordial place where that's dominated by by these giant monsters and like little cargo cults and just kind of a savage world sort of atmosphere. And the more that I got into it, the more that kind of my love for those Toho movies and those old giant monster movies, how that kind of started to creep into everything. And once I got into it, the idea completely morphed into like, hey, I'm gonna just bring kaiju into 5th edition. And it had been bandied about by some other third-party publishers before, but there weren't a whole lot of folks who had really gotten super deep into it in 5th edition. So I just dove in and it became a 146 page book full of crazy locations and monstrous kaiju and kind of an apocalyptic end of campaign sort of storyline. So yeah, that's kind of the base pitch right there.
Yeah, I've been having that problem of not enough high level adventures. The official caretakers of 5th edition D&D seem to think that nobody plays past 10th level. And that has not been my personal experience. Maybe they don't play past 10th level because there's not enough available for 10th level. And it may also be that there might be a tendency for games to sort of crap out. And that's about when they crap out. But I don't think it's because people don't want to play. I think the campaign might end for other reasons than I'm not interested in playing above 10th level. So
I think it's been a complaint right.
I think it's been a complaint I've seen. And there was now, when I was young, first starting out with D&D, we had this idea that you had to earn your way up to that level. So if you bought a module in the store and it was for 7th level, it would just sit there until you had some characters that were 7th level. But somewhere around 4th edition, at least in my personal experience with people I played with, if we came across something that was for a level that we didn't have characters for, we would just make characters of the appropriate level. This is like a revelation to us. We didn't have to start at 1st level and slog our way up to 15th level if we just had this cool adventure that we wanted to play.
No, 100%.
And even with the official stuff, they have pre-made characters going up to 10th level. They don't, and that's where they stop with the official pre-made characters. But you can, if you want to play an adventure that you don't have a character for, you can just grab one of those free pre-made characters and just jump in and play it. So I feel like if they put out a cool higher level adventure that people wanted to play, they would just go ahead and play it if it was something that interested them. So I think they're missing the boat there. I think they've made a mistake, but they've been making a lot of mistakes lately.
Well, you make some good points, man, about 5th edition D&D and high level. The experience that I had when I was writing it, especially later on when I was playtesting it, like, oh my gosh, like I realized how difficult it was to write a at least a decent playable high level adventure. It's significantly difficult. I mean, as far as when you compare it to other adventures, like especially lower level or like mid-tier adventures, the challenges have really got to raise the bar, and there's all sorts of things that high level characters can do that you as the designer have to not so much worry about, but you have to plan for. Now I'm a big fan. Coming from the earlier editions, I'm a big fan of if players have powers and abilities or magic items, they should be able to use them. I mean, I'm not going to write something to specifically hinder someone with say like true seeing. Like if you can see into the astral and ethereal and invisible creatures and hidden creatures, then I don't want to punish you or hamper you from being able to use your abilities. I think that's just poor writing. So the challenge when writing these high level adventures is designing something that's still challenging to those higher level characters who really can do it all. I mean, sometimes you get these, especially in 5th edition, you get these characters that they're attacking so many times around, they're dealing so much damage, and they have like I call editions, they have spells that allow them to do, I mean, some game breaking stuff in the hands of a clever player. So you just have to, it's an extra couple steps in designing that you have to think, that you have to kind of design and think about when writing a high level adventure.
Now, you're about to expand this adventure, correct?
Yeah. So the last couple of years, I've recently fallen in love with dungeon crawl classics. Like I'd always kind of like flirted with it a little bit, and had a lot of my friends had played quite a bit of it, but I was moving around so much. Like we were a military family, we were just moving around everywhere. So like I'd have a group here, and then 8 months later, have to split. So, but we've settled down. We bought a house, so now I have my own group, and I'm gaming more online. So my game of choice is Dungeon Crawl Classics, and I've converted a couple of my older modules, lower level stuff to DCC, and it's been pretty successful conversions. So I thought, well, there's things about Skull Canyon Island, the module, the 5e one, that I didn't, in retrospect, I look back now 3.5 years later, and I think, that doesn't exactly work the way I had hoped it would work. I should have expanded this. It'd be cool to add this. Oh, now I have like these 7 other ideas. I'd like to put those in there. So going forward with the conversion to make it compatible with Dungeon Crawl Classics, I want to do some considerably different things with it, and really expand it to something that you could play as a campaign rather than just an adventure.
You're going to be doing a Kickstarter for that?
Yeah, I mean, this is, we're probably looking at another year on that Kickstarter before it actually sees. Yeah, it'll probably be like June or August of next year before that kicks in. I've just started kind of playing around with it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Before you launch the Kickstarter. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for it, and maybe we'll have you back when that's about to happen. I've only played maybe twice Dungeon Crawl Classics. I've only played it about twice, but I have quite a stack of stuff that I've accumulated for it, including something that came in the mail today, Comic Crawl Classics.
Very nice.
It's a third party product that's compatible with that. That's a superheroes game that uses the Dungeon Crawl Classics rules.
You know what I really like about Dungeon Crawl Classics is, it feels, when I play when I play DCC, it feels like it's 1983 for me again, and that I'm opening up the red box and I have no idea what's going to happen. The way that spell casting is in that game, and how like mercurial it can be, how like wild it can get, it really throws a sense of uncertainty into everything. But it also, your warriors have mighty deeds, your dwarves can smell gold, you've got halflings that can share their luck. It's like the greatest house ruled game of like basic D&D ever created. Like it's a killer system, and it really lends itself to to fantastic locations and a real sword and sorcery sort of vibe. And man, I just if you get the right group, I just can't get enough.
Well, Mutant Crawl Classics is the iteration I've been particularly interested in.
Oh, fantastic game.
Looking for some Gamma World vibes. And since Wizards has refused to put out yet another edition to go with fifth edition,
Yeah,
I
that's
think I'm gonna
you know
have to.
they did such a good job on Mutant Crawl Classics. Jim Wampler is a buddy, and he is just, I mean, he really knocked it out of the park with nailing the feel of DCC, like how again when I was talking about how it feels like it's 1983 again, by nailing that feeling but applying it to applying it to the Gamma World setting, or the feel, the vibe of Gamma World. Like he gets, like he's such a dyed-in-the-wool sci-fi comic book. Like he's one of us. Like he's a total fanboy like the rest of us. But like he has the precision and all the knowledge, and he just gets it, man. He understands the vibe so well, and he really delivered on that game. And some of his adventures are for that game are great as well. I don't know if you follow his label Mud Puppy Games, but he's got a fantastic
Yes.
Scientific Barbarian. Yeah, the zine. It's fantastic.
Yes. Yep. I've got all of those. Got the hardback collection. Yes. I've been accumulating all, Gamma World type stuff, but I just haven't pulled the trigger and started a campaign. I did run a few years ago an unofficial 5th edition Gamma World. I think it was called Gamma 5. It was just a fan thing that somebody had put up on the internet.
Nice.
And I basically adapted some old, maybe 3rd edition Gamma World, 2nd or 3rd edition Gamma World modules to that.
Oh, cool.
And, we played that, but I've been backing everything that comes out for that. I've been backing on the Kickstarter. I've backed a lot of your work on the Kickstarters.
Heyo.
I'm looking at the Planet X Games page on exaltedfuneral.com.
Yeah.
And it looks like out of 15 items, I have 11 of them. So
that's crazy. Well, hey, thank you for your support.
most of those were I got them through the Kickstarter. So.
Oh, right on, man. Well,
Yeah,
I appreciate that. There is no small publisher without the person who backs those Kickstarters. If nobody backed those Kickstarters, we would just be writing stuff for ourselves. We wouldn't be publishing it. You know what I mean? Like without backers, there is no company.
So how did you get into that small self-publishing role-playing guy?
Well, that's a good question. So I was trying to get my foot in the door with in the people call it the industry, but I hate it. I hate to call it an industry. I call it the hobby.
Right.
I was trying to get my foot in the hobby, and I didn't know anybody. I knew one guy that I'd met at a con years and years ago, and we had kind of stayed in touch, and we were into all the same stuff. So through old Facebook Messenger or ICQ or whatever it was on MySpace back in the day. I don't remember. We would talk back and forth.
Friendster. It was Friendster.
Friendster. There we go. And I would I guess I just kept in touch with him. He's a cool guy. So then I began writing this. I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to write this. I'm going to pitch it. Somebody will buy it. I was very optimistic. Somebody's going to publish my adventure. So I started writing this adventure, and I turned to him for advice. It was my friend Casey Christopherson, who works for Frog God Games and Necromancer Games. He's actually got like 100 credits, like 100 RPG credits. He's worked for Troll Lord, and he's done stuff for Goodman, and he's all over the place. He's done a lot of stuff. A really accomplished RPG writer. So I turned to him, and he was like, hey, I'll pitch this to, we're having a meeting soon. I'll pitch this to the powers that be. We'll see what happens. And he did. And they said, yeah, we'll buy it, but we're going to strip out all this stuff. And I was like, that's kind of what makes it cool to me. I was really, it's your first thing you're trying to get published. You're so in love with it. You don't want to kill your darlings, So, he says, listen, man, it says, we can buy this, and it'd be over. But what you ought to do is you ought to just put it on Kickstarter. He says, I'll help you like format it and figure it out. I'll help you get artists. I'll help you find all the things that you need to do. And I said, well, what's Kickstarter? I had no idea what that was. And this way he did show me the ropes, and he did answer all my questions, and he showed me how to structure an adventure and how to, how to not say will, and or how to eliminate all the that's, and just how to write it so it doesn't sound so amateur level. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He just helped me a lot, and he put me in contact with a lot of people and artists that I'm still working with now. The guys that did most of the work on my first adventure, he's literally doing work on adventures for me now. So it's like we built these relationships because of my previous relationship with Casey. So he opened the door for me the same way that the door was open for him. So a long time ago, somebody opened the door for him and stuck their foot in and said, hey, somebody pay attention to this guy, give him a chance to show you something. And, my first Kickstarter was a very minor success. I made enough to pay for it and to publish it and not lose any money. And then after that, I understood what Kickstarter was. So I was just kind of off to the races after that. And I started going to cons. And Casey and I were still great friends. We talk every day. He's a good dude, and he's been a great mentor, and he's been a fabulous kind of a steward to kind of like to show me in the early days, like, hey, this is what you do, this is what you don't do. And just he was very influential in making sure that I didn't make any of the common early mistakes.
What was that first adventure?
As an adventure called Jungle Tomb of the Mummy Bride, which I build as a grindhouse style, like delve into the green hell of the southern jungles, sort of very listen, it had a mummy, it had a ziggurat, there was undead there, it's full of traps. It was it's a very like what you expect from somebody's first published adventure. All the things they tell you not to do, like, hey, how many adventures are there with pyramids and ziggurats? How many of them have some sort of undead boss at the end? All the things they tell you not to do, I went ahead and did. But it still remains one of the most popular adventures that I have. People, when I run into them at cons, they tell me that not universally, but it's a pretty good vibe, that they like it. We've played it a lot. It's sold very, very well. For my small little minor tiny company, and it's been very, very good to me. I've converted it over to DCC, and the DCC crowd seem to enjoy it. So I've been very, very lucky with that first adventure, and getting it out there. And if it had fumbled, or if I had some of these pitfalls that were that obviously I was able to avoid, thanks to Casey and some good advice from some other people. That I don't know that if I would have even made the rest of them. I might have been so like disheartened or dispirited, but I got lucky, and I had, like I said, I had good mentors and good folks around me. So luckily, it was off to the races.
I do have a copy of that. I didn't get it when it first came out. I think I added it on from one of the other Kickstarters.
Right on, yeah.
The backer kit or whatever.
It does not have the conventional feel. Yeah, it's not the conventional feel of a 5th edition module.
Speaking of that, a lot of the things you've put out are not for 5th edition. They're for sort of BX, basic Dungeons and Dragons style play, like your phylactery. Yeah,
there's such a close line that you can draw between like BX and BECME, D&D, AD&D, D&D 2nd edition. I mean, there's just such a fine, there's not so much not of a fine line between those. It's more of like they're so easily compatible and comparable and customizable that the blanket term of just like OSR, like old school Renaissance or old school revival, that is enough to, if you see that, then like, oh, hey, then I can take this home and I can play it with my BX group, or I can run a game with this for 1st edition. So I when I work in the OSR like sphere, um, I do a lot of zines that way, some adventures. I've got some stuff coming that is almost totally OSR. It's just that I find that folks can get the most use out of it. Because if you can play D&D, then you can look at any of those titles and like there's so little conversion that you need to do that they're immediately useful to you.
Yeah, I have been accumulating a lot of OSR stuff, but I haven't actually played that much of it.
Oh, there's some fantastic
I just sort of
like
I like the concept of it, but I have not forced my gaming group to play like old school essentials or whatever yet. It's on the list. It's just not enough time, man. It's not enough time.
No, I hear you.
Though I have found that actually adapting OSR stuff to 5th edition is pretty easy. I can kind of do it on the fly. The hardest time I've had is trying to adapt something from 4th edition to 5th edition. That is not easy.
Yeah, they're different.
You can just take the concept and say, okay, it says this creature, so I'll just grab the 5th edition version of that creature. But if there's something really specific, yeah, you're just going to have to make something up. There's no quick and easy chart.
4th edition D&D gets kind of, I think, unfairly maligned. I think all the editions of D&D have something to offer everybody. In fact, every game has something to offer somebody. And you got to remember, like, every game is going to be somebody's first game. It's just like every comic you see, that was somebody's first comic.
Yep.
That was the first comic they ever picked up, and it's the same with role-playing games. So, 4th edition was not necessarily my vibe, but I can't really say that I didn't play it because of the rules or anything. I still read the books. I still enjoyed what I read. It's just that at that time in my life, I was like gaming less, and I was doing other things more. I still had like a little toe in the hobby. I was buying books and not playing the games, and I was reading Knights of the Dinner Table. That's what I was doing as far as gaming went, but nothing else. It
was 4th edition that got me back into playing Dungeons and Dragons. I was playing other games. I had kind of left D&D behind.
Right.
But I wanted to run their organized play program at the store I was working at. And that's just,
there you go.
That was, and I was like, oh, what is this? I can get free D&D stuff if I run this game at my store. Yes, please send me free stuff.
It's like a dream to your like 13-year-old self, like free games for playing games.
Right. So I jumped in on that about halfway through that program, and then we kept doing it through the play test for 5th edition, and then we did it for a while during 5th edition. And then...
Yeah, I've had a good time playing all the editions. And that goes back all the way to like early, like I said, BX, BECMI, 1st edition D&D, all the way up through now. I've had a fantastic time playing them all. And then all of like the spin-off, all the clones, Fantasy Hero and DCC, and even stuff like crazy stuff like Stormbringer. Like I've had a good time playing those, those kind of games. I just is if I have a good group, or if the game is really interesting to me, then it takes very little to hook me. I'm there. At this point, I know how to keep my mouth shut if I'm a player, and play along good with everybody else and have a good time. And if I'm the DM, I know how to be enthusiastic enough that nobody else becomes unenthusiastic. So it's I love role playing. I love the whole idea behind RPGs. I love the community behind it, and I really like the fellowship that develops at the table, even like over Discord or like over Zoom or something like that for Zoom games. Like you can make really, really like strong pals with people because you guys are meeting every Friday, and slaying dragons, or you're running down the orcs, or whatever. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, all my games are online now. We started that for obvious reasons, but then people moved away, so we just continued playing online so we could still play with those people. Now, I don't know about you, but I I mean, I've played every edition of D&D, but I've resolved not to play the next edition. Kind of done with Wizards of the Coast at this point. unless there's some announcement that leadership has changed, we have seen the error of our ways, we're going to stop trying to destroy the hobby from within. I'm not buying that next set of books when it comes out next year. I've decided to go with Tales of the Valiant instead from Kobold.
Yeah, there's options galore.
Yeah. But I have so much unplayed 5th edition stuff already. I don't need to buy a new book for the next 10 years, and I'm fine. So I don't know if do you have any strong feelings about that next edition that's on the horizon?
No, I don't. Listen, I'll give anything a shot. I didn't like what happened earlier on at the beginning of the year. No, for the people who, the very few that are listening to this that might not know about it, definitely look that up on the internet and get a full earful on that. But I wasn't a fan of that. I wasn't a fan about how it was handled. But at the same time, like, I've played D&D for the majority of my life, and it's not just D&D to me anymore. It's role playing, I'm just as happy playing Dungeon Crawl Classics or playing any of the Shadow Dark or any of these other iterations of games. Like, I'm not sitting around like twiddling my thumbs, having a bunch of ill will. That's just not the person that I am. But I do look forward to see what new creators are going to create. Whether or not it's at Hasbro or it's at another independent publisher. I like seeing new ideas, and I like seeing things that'll move our hobby forward, things that'll help bring disparate pieces of the hobby back together. I'm interested to see what's going to happen, and the new innovations and the rules. What's old is new again. That sort of thing. So I get stoked about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, several of the games you mentioned are, I'm going to be playing Shadow Dark as soon as that physical edition comes out.
It's so
like
cool.
I said, I got a stack of DCC I haven't played. There's so many games I have sitting on my shelf that I haven't played yet. But I don't, if it had stopped with the open game license fiasco, that might have been one thing. But then they just continue to keep shooting themselves in the foot, and I'm just like, I'm not giving you any more of my money, and I don't honestly need this new edition of the game anyway. I'm fine with the one that I've got, but I, just the corporation behind the whole thing, I'm just so done with their behavior that I'm just gonna go play something else.
Yeah, well, that's the cool thing about right now. It's never been a better time to be a creator than right now. You can, with Kickstarter and crowdfunding and Indiegogo, if you want to make something and get it out into the world, now is the time. The opportunities, and with social media, you can help get the word out. You have a lot of resources. Whether or not it's even if you don't have a big budget, you can still use stock art. There's all kinds of ways that you can get things done. If you really, really want to put out a book, you can do it. And if you want to, like I said, if you are, if you have bad feelings toward a certain company, you can always that's okay, because there are 100 more that are ready to bring you into the fold. Whether or not it's you're playing Planebreaker over there with Monty Cook Games, or you got Kobold Press with all their stuff, or DCC, like I said, or like those games we were talking about earlier, Mutant Crawl Classics or Shadow Dark or any of those, like Dolmenwood just launched, I think it was yesterday, and that campaign looks amazing.
I jumped on board of that.
You could play that for years, and
yeah, I've been I was on his, what do you call it, Patreon for a while, and now I'm back in that whole thing.
You talking about Gavin?
Some of our listeners have yeah. I backed
Gavin's fantastic.
I backed Old School Essentials, and then I jumped on his Patreon to get follow the Dolmenwood development. But now that's come to an end, and it's about to come out in its final form.
Yeah, it looks
Listeners,
great.
if you don't know what we're talking about, it's a game setting for old school style Dungeons and Dragons that has a sort of fairy tale aesthetic to it. It's called Dolmenwood by Gavin Norman of Necrotic Gnome Games.
Yeah, it's old school essentials
Maybe
and
like 75 minutes.
Yeah, Exalted Funeral is putting that out, so it's good stuff. It's gonna be good.
So, are you working on anything right now, or are you just getting ready for the Skullcano expansion?
Oh no, man! So like I'm always I'm always working on 4 or 5 things. I've got a monster book that I've been developing for a while. I've got a couple zines that I'm working on. I'm getting ready to launch one here in a couple weeks in conjunction with another person. And I've got a book that I'm doing for somebody else. I just finished up a board game expansion for another publisher. I mean, I'm always working on like a bunch of stuff at once. I find that it's easier for me to stay focused if I can work on something for a little while and switch. I don't get bored with things, or if I start to get bored, I can move over and not get burnt out. So it helps with productivity, and it helps me not suffer any kind of like creative sort of burnout of that spark.
Okay, good. Well, whenever you're ready to launch your next Kickstarter, just give me a nudge and we'll mention it.
Yeah, sure. But no, it's called it's a weird little zine. It's for DCC, and it's kind of like half of it. It's unusual for a DCC book because it's like half art book and then half role playing book because the art in it is every page is done by a different artist. So it's kind of like when we get those old like art zines, and like it was like a collaborative effort. So every page, like every page of text is done by a different DCC author, and every illustration is by a different artist. So every page is just wild. Some pages are color, some pages are black and white. It's all over the place. But as a whole, it's like a glimpse of into the vast field of creativity that you get in the DCC community, because you've got some really like heavy hitters as far as artists go, DCC artists go, like some of the top guys, and then on the writing side, you've got some of the top guys from that community as well, and then you've got guys who are just getting their feet wet, So it's like, again, a little all over the place, and it's a bit of an art zine, but it's also like definitely a role playing zine too. It's gonna be very interesting to see the reception on this. I mean, when I page through it, I love it. I think it's just a great glimpse into what is possible when you have like a scene that surrounds a game, or a scene that surrounds like a movement. Like DCC is a movement. It's not just a game. Like it is so like the fans for DCC stuff are so like. They're so devoted. They're so rabid almost, like, and I mean that in the best possible way. Like when you go to a convention and you hang out with DCC people, it's like your family. Like it's crazy, like how welcoming and inclusive they are. It's really, really cool.
Well, that sounds exciting. I'm sure I will probably end up backing that when it comes out, because I have a problem, ladies and gentlemen. Before we go, stepping away from role-playing games for a minute and back into the world of monsters, do you have a favorite monster?
Oh yeah, but we gotta listen. I can't just say favorite monster, man. We gotta break it down into categories. We talking kaiju. We talking like classic. We go in 80s. We go in post 80s with like all
Let's start with kaiju.
All right.
Who's your favorite kaiju?
Oh man, it's like this again. It's like it really is like trying to choose between my children, because I'm such a huge like Toho fan. Obviously, like there's Godzilla. I mean, how can you go wrong with the King of the Monsters? But I'm a big fan of Mecha Godzilla. But even more so than Mecha Godzilla, I kind of like Mecha Kong. Even though he doesn't make as many appearances, he's a like, I love the aesthetic of Mecha Kong. Like, it's just so ridiculous. But as far as like, if I'm going to go like, all right, well, let me try to pick my pick my favorites. I don't know, man. I really like the way that the Smog Monster looks. And I like the utterly insane backstory behind Biolante. Like, this backstory behind Biolante. It's just so nuts. Like, it's such a crazy story. So yeah, I know that answer's a little all over the place for the kaiju, but there's a lot to love.
Okay, do you have a favorite Universal monster?
Okay, again, got to break it up. It's just a bit. My favorite would be Frankenstein. However, I think the one that looks the coolest is the creature from the Black Lagoon. And then if you're going to go for straight up, like how cool the aesthetic is, like the story and the whole 9 yards, the bride of Frankenstein is fantastic. Like talk about iconic. Like, it's just such a look. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, the creature looks so cool. The costume is just, I mean, nothing like it at the time. It's the perfect costume. Frankenstein has the whole tragedy behind it. He's the man, the monster, the whole 9 yards, everything wrapped up into it. It's fantastic. But the bride, she has that's an iconic look. That's an Elvira level of awesomeness, like just the look to that is just perfect.
Okay, and how about D&D or D&D adjacent monsters?
My favorite monster for D&D, if giving you the boring answer, it's the Lich. I think they're super customizable. You really can make them a threat at just about any level. Even at low level, they can be kind of a background villain. Their lairs are just their entire dungeons on their own. They can, there's just so many ways that you can kind of customize them to make it really, really cool. As far as like kind of the weirder monsters, I'm a big fan of like kind of silly monsters, but then those monsters, I like making them like an actual threat. Like, I love how ridiculous a rust monster looks, like it's just so ridiculous looking. But man, when you get right down to it, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're first level or 20th level, if that thing touches your +5 armor and it doesn't save, goodbye. It's the same with like green slime. If green slime drops on you and you're 23rd level, if you don't get it off of you in 1d4 rounds, it doesn't care how many hit points you are or what level you are. You're just dead. But I wouldn't, by any stretch of the imagination, call it green slime my favorite monster. I do like the Grell.
It's a great song, though.
Oh, well, of course. Like, the Grell has like it's like a big brain with a bird beak and two like crazy looking eyes, and then all these tentacles, and it like hangs out above doorways and will try to grab you and float away. Like, it's just such a ridiculous monster. And for some reason, they made an action figure of it in the 80s. LJN Toys was one of the bendable action figures. So I still have mine, and it sits on my desk, and I look at it every day, and I'm just like, it's such a batshit crazy monster. Like, why does this thing even exist? How did we get here? What is this? This is great.
All right. Well, any other monsters that I might have from categories I may not have thought of?
Oh man, like I told you, man, I'm a big monster kid. I was just thinking about vampires earlier today. I was trying to think of what my favorite vampire movie was, and it's got to be Near Dark. Have you seen that? It's from the 80s. Catherine Bigelow.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe I have a DVD on my shelf of it.
Oh, just a fantastic vampire movie. The vampires are dirty and they're kind of like hillbillies, and it has like kind of what I consider to be like the best like vampire, I don't know, attack or vampire fight scene in movie history. There's this sequence when they go into the bar, and Bill Paxton is just clearing out the bar, and they're
Spurs.
They're just. Yeah, it's just great. It's just such a great scene. Even now, all these years later, it's just such a fantastic scene in an already good movie. So, big fan of the dirty hillbilly roving around in a big camper vampires, with tinfoil on the windows to keep themselves from getting burned up in the sun. Just such a yeah. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, but also kind of cool. It's like the crater mutants in The Hills Have Eyes. You know, like you've got like this irradiated wasteland, and you've got these mutants basically living beneath the ground and dragging hapless travelers to their doom. It's such a kind of insane concept, but like pretty cool when you start to think about it, and terrifying.
Yeah. Well, Levi, we've been here for a while, so I think this is a good spot to wrap it up. But thank you so much for joining us today. And folks, we will put the link to all Levi's stuff in the show notes. If you want to check out any of his games or follow him on the socials, you can find, and there will also be a profile on our website for him at mmftg.com. Thank you for joining us, Levi. And now, back to the rest of the show. Honeybee, what are you going to rate Zarkorr the Invader? Zarkorr ! The Invader.
I think, like, as a movie, it's like a 3-star movie, but I really had fun watching it. Like, I did enjoy it. I get the cult following aspect of it. I really loved Arthur. I loved how just, like, socially, like, kind of... just his, like, kind of weird neurodivergent character. He was, like, problematic, but he also kind of saved the day. And I really enjoyed that. So I guess I'm going to give it, like, a 3.8.
Wow.
Not quite a 4, but more than a 3, because I did have fun watching it. I did enjoy. It was a good time, but yeah, it's not a very good movie.
I'm giving it a 2. I was not charmed by the performances. I did like George, but yeah, I found our lead to be really whiny. Mm-hmm. Although I liked Zarkorr himself, he didn't have any personality and wasn't really connected.
Yeah.
It was like there was 2 different movies going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Found Dr. Martin to be kind of annoying.
Yeah.
And yeah, on the whole,
I agree with all of those. I agree with all of those things, but I did enjoy it. Was fun to watch. Like, I did enjoy the movie. I enjoyed the, like, kind of, it's kind of like when we were at G-Fest and we watched like the Cowgirls versus Pterodactyls movie. Like, that movie was so god awful, but I had a really, really good time watching it. Like, it was the experience was so fun. So it's kind of like that. Right. Like, it was not a good movie, but I really enjoyed watching it and had a good time. Like, just being shocked or being like, what the fuck is going on right now? It just made me laugh. And the characters, like George, just like all of a sudden changing his mind and being like, no, Larry, I really believe this guy. I was just like, what the fuck is happening? And at first I'm like, no, he's just being a good cop, like trying to get the guy to put the gun down and stuff. But no, he actually did fucking believe him. And then there's also this point where the main character's like telling the girl, he's like, I don't want to force you to help. And the cop, George, is like, I could probably force her. Like, I could probably do it. And it just made me laugh so much. Like, I laughed like out loud a few times, and I had a really good time watching it. So I'm gonna say it's like a 3.5 to a 3.8, somewhere in there. But yeah, definitely not a good movie.
George was definitely my favorite. I do kind of wish I had seen it on video when it first came out. I might have felt differently about it. I might have been nostalgic for it. Because as I said, I have watched a lot of full moon videos in my time, but somehow this one missed me. All right. Well, I guess that's going to wrap it up for today. What do we have on the docket for next week? Ooh.
Next week
is Tremors 2 Aftershocks.
Yay.
I don't know if that's easily available or if that's one person might have to pay for. Looks like you might have to rent that one or buy it. We might already
Probably
have
super
access
cheap,
to
though.
it. You can rent it for $3.99, $3.79.
Oh yeah. Nice.
For some reason, it's 20 cents cheaper on Prime. But we might talk to me before you do that. We might have access to it elsewhere. I meant Honeybee, not the rest of you. The rest of you, you're on the way. Well, thanks for joining us, folks. You can support the show if you enjoy it at patreon.com/mmftg. You can also find a link to that and all our other stuff at mmftg.com. Please follow us on all the things. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, send us a message. Let us know you care. Until next week.
You have been Precious D?
I have, but I was gonna say next week made me think. Next week we will also be at Kaiju Go, so come see us at Kaiju Go.
Yay! I thought you forgot your name.
No. KaijuGo.com has all the information about that. So until we see you at Kaiju Go, I have been Precious D.
And I've been Honeybee.
Remember to keep calm and take shelter in basements.
And please don't misuse science.
We won't see you, but you will hear us next time on Monster Movie Fun Time Go.
Hell yeah, brother.
You've been listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on your podcasting platform of choice. Our theme song is by the Texicano folk rock punk featuring Lita Lopez. You can support the show, find links to our social media, and even leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/mmftg.
Fun time go!